In 1986, a NASA satellite captures something in Earth's upper atmosphere that shouldn't exist. Massive jet-like structures shooting upward from thunderstorms at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per second. They were called sprites. And for years, pilots who reported seeing them were dismissed as unreliable witnesses. NASA knew they were real. They had the footage, but they stayed silent. 2001. The Mars Global Surveyor detects massive underground caverns on Mars, some large enough to swallow entire cities. Perfectly stable, radiation shielded, ideal for sustaining life. NASA released the data years later with minimal fanfare. In 2002, Voyager 1 crosses into interstellar space and begins detecting a persistent hum, a background noise that shouldn't be there. The source remains unknown. NASA mentioned it in a technical paper that barely made headlines. Tonight, we're exposing the terrifying discoveries NASA has kept from the public eye, not because of conspiracies, but because some truths are too unsettling to share without proper context. From deadly space phenomena that threaten Earth to discoveries on other worlds that challenge everything we thought we knew about life in the universe. This is every terrifying discovery NASA hid from us, explained. What's up, truth seekers? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the classified archives, the delayed disclosures, and the genuinely disturbing discoveries that NASA has made over decades of space exploration. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear about something. This isn't about wild conspiracy theories or claims that NASA is hiding aliens in Area 51. This is about real, documented discoveries that NASA either kept classified for years, released with minimal publicity, or initially tried to explain away before the evidence became overwhelming. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll explore why NASA sometimes withholds information, what they've discovered that genuinely scared scientists, and how some of these findings could affect humanity's future. From threats in our solar system to bizarre phenomena in deep space, these are the discoveries that made NASA think twice before going public. Before we expose these hidden truths, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Some of what we're about to reveal will change how you see our place in the cosmos. Let's dive in. The killer electrons. Let's start with something that directly threatens every satellite, every astronaut, and potentially our entire technological civilization. The Van Allen radiation belts. You've probably heard of them. Those donut-shaped regions of intense radiation surrounding Earth. But what you probably don't know is just how deadly they've become, and how NASA has been quietly monitoring an alarming change. The Van Allen belts were discovered in 1958, and for decades they were considered a hazard, but a manageable one. NASA knew how to shield spacecraft and plot trajectories that minimized exposure. Astronauts going to the moon passed through them quickly, limiting radiation exposure. But in 2012, NASA launched the Van Allen probes mission, and what they found was deeply unsettling. The radiation belts aren't static. They're dynamic, violent, and increasingly unpredictable. More importantly, scientists discovered a phenomenon they called killer electrons. These are ultra-relativistic electrons accelerated to nearly the speed of light by magnetic storms. When these particles strike satellite electronics, they can cause catastrophic failures. But here's what NASA initially downplayed. These killer electron events are becoming more frequent and more intense. During solar storms, the Van Allen belts can expand dramatically, potentially threatening satellites in normally safe orbits. Even more concerning, researchers discovered a third, temporary radiation belt that appears during extreme solar events, extending the danger zone even farther into space. Why did NASA keep quiet about this? Because the implications are terrifying. Our modern civilization depends entirely on satellites for GPS, communications, weather forecasting, military operations, and financial transactions. A major solar storm could create killer electron conditions that disable hundreds of satellites simultaneously. NASA eventually released this information, but it was buried in technical papers and given minimal press coverage. The agency didn't want to cause panic about a threat we currently have limited ability to prevent. But the danger is real, and it's growing as our dependence on space-based technology increases. The Mars Methane Mystery. In 2004, the Mars Express Orbiter and Earth-based telescopes detected something on Mars that sent NASA scientists into emergency meetings: methane. Significant amounts of it appearing seasonally in the Martian atmosphere. This might not sound scary, but let me explain why this discovery was so disturbing. On Earth, over 90% of atmospheric methane is produced by living organisms. The presence of methane on Mars suggested the possibility of ongoing biological activity. But NASA had a problem. They couldn't confirm the source, and announcing potential life on Mars without solid evidence could cause a media circus that would damage the agency's credibility. So NASA went quiet. They continued studying the methane, but public statements were carefully worded, emphasizing that geological processes could also produce methane. The full scope of the findings was downplayed. Then, in 2013, the Curiosity rover landed in Gale Crater and began its own atmospheric analysis. The results were even more puzzling. Methane levels weren't just present, they were fluctuating wildly. Sometimes there was almost no methane. Other times, concentrations spiked dramatically, only to disappear again within weeks. This behavior didn't match geological models. Methane from volcanic or geothermal sources should be relatively constant. The rapid fluctuations suggested something was actively producing and consuming methane, something potentially alive. NASA's silence on this matter became a subject of frustration among researchers. When the agency finally acknowledged the findings more publicly, they emphasized the many uncertainties and the need for further study. But internal documents later revealed that some NASA scientists believed they might be detecting seasonal microbial activity in the Martian subsurface. The discovery gets even stranger. In 2019, the European Space Agency announced they could no longer detect the methane plumes Mars Express had been seeing for years. They had simply vanished. NASA's response was notably subdued, offering no clear explanation for how atmospheric methane on an entire planet could just disappear. To this day, the Mars methane mystery remains unsolved. Is it life? Is it some unknown geological process? Or is something on Mars actively consuming the methane, removing it from the atmosphere as quickly as it appears? NASA continues to study it, but public communication about this potentially revolutionary discovery remains frustratingly vague. The underwater ocean worlds. Here's something NASA definitely didn't rush to tell the public. We've discovered multiple ocean worlds in our solar system that are more likely to harbor life than Mars. And these oceans aren't just puddles. They're vast bodies of liquid water containing more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, has been known since the 1990s to have a subsurface ocean beneath its icy crust. But what NASA kept quiet for years was just how active and potentially habitable this ocean is. Galileo spacecraft data, analyzed years after the mission ended, revealed that Europa has active geysers shooting plumes of water hundreds of kilometers into space. These plumes contain organic molecules, salts, and other materials from the subsurface ocean. More disturbingly, magnetic field measurements suggest the ocean has more in common with Earth's oceans than previously thought, with possible hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor. Why is this terrifying? Because hydrothermal vents on Earth are teeming with life. Complex ecosystems exist in total darkness, powered by chemical energy rather than sunlight. If Europa has similar vents, it could harbor an entire biosphere completely independent of anything on Earth. But NASA sat on the most compelling evidence for years. In 2018, researchers reanalyzing old Galileo data discovered that the spacecraft had actually flown through one of Europa's water plumes back in 1997. NASA had the evidence of active geology and potential habitability for over 20 years before making it public. The situation with Enceladus, Saturn's tiny moon, is even more remarkable. The Cassini mission discovered massive water plumes erupting from cracks in the moon's south pole. Chemical analysis revealed the presence of molecular hydrogen, a clear sign of hydrothermal activity. The ocean beneath Enceladus is actively producing the chemical ingredients necessary for life. NASA's public statements emphasize the need for caution and further study, but privately, astrobiologists were far more excited. Some even argued that Enceladus represents our best chance of finding extraterrestrial life in the solar system. The agency's hesitation to fully communicate this to the public stemmed from concerns about overselling the discovery before confirmation of actual life. Most recently, the Hubble Space Telescope detected evidence of water plumes on Ganymede, another Jupiter moon, suggesting yet another potentially habitable ocean world. NASA announced this discovery, but again, downplayed its significance in public communications. The reality is stunning. Our solar system contains multiple worlds with vast oceans, organic chemistry, and energy sources. The odds of life existing somewhere out there are far higher than NASA's public messaging suggests. But confirming it requires missions that cost billions of dollars and take decades to complete. Until then, NASA remains cautiously silent about just how optimistic scientists really are. The asteroid impact threat. NASA has known for decades that Earth is in constant danger from asteroid impacts, but the full scope of the threat is something the agency has been reluctant to publicize. Let me take you inside what NASA actually knows about rocks from space that could end civilization. In 1998, Congress mandated that NASA find and track 90% of near-Earth asteroids larger than 1 kilometer in diameter. These are the civilization-ending impacts that could cause global catastrophe. NASA successfully completed this survey by 2010 and assured the public that no known large asteroids pose an impact threat for the next century. But here's what they didn't emphasize. That survey only covered the biggest asteroids. There are hundreds of thousands of smaller asteroids, ranging from 100 meters to 1 kilometer, that could cause devastating regional destruction. A 200-meter asteroid impact could destroy an entire city and kill millions. And NASA has only found a fraction of these objects. The real wake-up call came in 2013 with the Chelyabinsk meteor. A 20-meter asteroid that nobody saw coming exploded over Russia with the force of 30 Hiroshima bombs. Over 1,500 people were injured by shattered glass from the shockwave. This happened the same day that a known asteroid, 2012 DA-14, made a close approach that NASA had been tracking for months. The coincidence highlighted an uncomfortable truth. NASA's asteroid detection program has massive blind spots. Smaller asteroids approaching from the direction of the Sun are nearly impossible to detect with ground-based telescopes. We could have mere hours of warning before impact. What's even more terrifying is data NASA has collected about asteroid composition. Some asteroids are solid rock, which is bad enough, but others are loose piles of rubble held together by weak gravity. These rubble pile asteroids might be impossible to deflect with current technology. Nuclear weapons or kinetic impactors might just break them into multiple pieces, all still on a collision course with Earth. NASA has established the Planetary Defense Coordination Office and has begun testing asteroid deflection technology with missions like DART, which successfully altered an asteroid's orbit in 2022. But the agency remains quiet about vulnerability assessments that show certain impact scenarios where we would be essentially helpless. Classified briefings to government officials paint a starker picture than public statements. Some impact scenarios, particularly from long-period comets that appear with little warning, could strike before any meaningful deflection attempt could be mounted. NASA knows this. They're working on solutions, but they're not advertising our current vulnerability. The Interstellar visitors. On October 19, 2017, astronomers detected something that had never been observed before. An object from interstellar space passing through our solar system. They named it Oumuamua, Hawaiian for scout or messenger. And almost immediately, NASA began downplaying just how strange this object really was. Oumuamua was unlike any asteroid or comet ever observed. Its shape was extremely elongated, like a cigar, with a length-to-width ratio of at least 10:1. As it tumbled through space, its brightness varied dramatically, suggesting a highly unusual geometry. But here's where it gets weird. As Oumuamua left the solar system, it accelerated, not from gravitational effects, which were fully accounted for, but from some non-gravitational force. Comets accelerate like this when they release gas as they heat up near the sun. But Oumuamua showed no signs of cometary activity. No tail, no coma, no gas emissions detected by any telescope. NASA scientists proposed that Oumuamua might be outgassing something transparent to our instruments, like hydrogen, but this explanation required special pleading, invoking properties never observed in any other solar system object. Some researchers, including Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb, suggested that Oumuamua's acceleration and unusual shape were consistent with a light sail, a technology that could be artificial. NASA's public response was dismissive, insisting on natural explanations despite the anomalies. But internal discussions revealed significant uncertainty. Some NASA scientists privately admitted that Oumuamua didn't fit any natural object category they understood. The agency chose to emphasize conventional explanations publicly, while continuing to puzzle over the object privately. Then, in 2019, amateur astronomer Gennady Borisov discovered a second interstellar visitor, 2I/Borisov. This one behaved like a normal comet, making Oumuamua's weirdness even more pronounced by comparison. Why was the first interstellar object so anomalous, while the second was mundane? NASA has since acknowledged that interstellar objects probably pass through the inner solar system every year, but most go undetected. This raises an unsettling question. How many strange objects, like Oumuamua, have we missed? And what might they tell us about the nature and prevalence of unusual phenomena, natural or otherwise, in our galactic neighborhood? The agency's reluctance to fully engage with the most intriguing aspects of Oumuamua reflects a broader institutional conservatism. NASA doesn't want to fuel speculation about alien technology, even when confronted with observations that don't fit conventional categories. But this caution sometimes comes at the cost of honest public communication about scientific uncertainties. The dying sun. Here's something NASA has known for years, but rarely discusses in public communications. Our sun is more variable and potentially dangerous than most people realize, and there's evidence that we might be overdue for a catastrophic solar event. The Carrington event of 1859 was the most powerful solar storm in recorded history. Telegraph systems worldwide sparked and caught fire. Auroras were visible near the equator. If a similar event occurred today, it would cause trillions of dollars in damage and potentially knock out power grids for months or years. Here's what's terrifying. NASA knows the Carrington event wasn't a worst-case scenario. Ice core data reveals evidence of even more powerful solar storms in the past. A storm in 775 AD appears to have been nearly 10 times more powerful than the Carrington event. If such a storm hit today, it could effectively end modern technological civilization. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory continuously monitors the sun, watching for signs of dangerous solar activity. But what they don't often discuss is how limited our warning time would be. The fastest solar storm particles can reach Earth in just 8 minutes. Even slower coronal mass ejections give us only 15 to 18 hours of warning. That's not enough time to protect the power grid, not enough time to shield satellites, not enough time to evacuate astronauts from the International Space Station. We would essentially be helpless, watching the storm approach, knowing what's coming, but unable to prevent it. NASA has also discovered that the sun's magnetic field is weakening in a way that could make Earth more vulnerable to cosmic rays and solar particles. The heliosphere, the protective bubble the sun creates around the solar system, is shrinking. This was revealed through Voyager data, but received minimal public attention. Most unsettling are NASA's long-term solar models. While the sun won't become a red giant for billions of years, it's gradually getting hotter. In less than 1 billion years, possibly much sooner, the sun will be too hot for Earth to maintain liquid water on its surface. Our planet's habitability has an expiration date, and it's shorter than most people realize. NASA discusses these findings in scientific papers, but rarely in public outreach. The agency doesn't want to cause existential dread about threats on timescales beyond human planning horizons. But the information is there for those who look. Our sun is both more dangerous in the short term and less eternal than we like to believe. The Fermi paradox evidence. Perhaps the most philosophically unsettling area, where NASA has been notably quiet, is the Fermi paradox, the question of where all the aliens are. NASA's SETI efforts and exoplanet discoveries have revealed information that makes the absence of detected extraterrestrial intelligence increasingly puzzling and, frankly, disturbing. The Kepler Space Telescope discovered that planets are incredibly common. Nearly every star has planets. A significant fraction of those planets are in the habitable zone where liquid water could exist. By conservative estimates, there should be billions of potentially habitable worlds in our galaxy alone. More recent discoveries have revealed that the building blocks of life are everywhere. Organic molecules in interstellar clouds, amino acids in meteorites, complex chemistry on moons and planets throughout our solar system. Life's ingredients are universal. So where is everyone? NASA's search for extraterrestrial intelligence has been ongoing for decades. We've listened to millions of stars across multiple frequencies. We've analyzed data from radio telescopes around the world, and we've found nothing. No clearly artificial signals, no megastructures, no signs of technological civilizations, despite the galaxy being old enough for intelligence to have arisen billions of years ago. This silence is what some researchers call the Great Silence, and it's one of the most disturbing findings in all of astronomy. NASA doesn't discuss it much because there's no good explanation that isn't unsettling. Maybe intelligence is rare, meaning we're alone, or nearly alone in the galaxy. Maybe intelligent civilizations destroy themselves before becoming detectable. Maybe there's a barrier to technological development that almost no species overcomes. Or maybe advanced civilizations deliberately hide themselves for reasons we don't understand. Each possibility is troubling in its own way. NASA has accumulated decades of null results in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, but these negative findings rarely make headlines. The agency announces new exoplanet discoveries with excitement, but remains notably quiet about what it means that we haven't heard from any of their potential inhabitants. Some NASA scientists privately worry about what's called the Great Filter, a hypothetical barrier that prevents civilizations from spreading across the galaxy. If this filter is ahead of us rather than behind us, it implies that something catastrophic awaits all technological civilizations, something that has destroyed every species that reached our level of development. This is genuinely terrifying, and it's based on hard data. The observation that the galaxy appears empty of technological life despite conditions that should favor its emergence. NASA continues searching, but the agency's public optimism about finding life contrasts sharply with the growing concern among researchers about what the silence might mean. Every discovery we've explored today is real. These aren't conspiracy theories or wild speculation. These are documented findings that NASA has been reluctant to fully publicize, either because the implications are too unsettling, the evidence is incomplete, or the agency fears causing unnecessary panic. From killer electrons threatening our satellites, to methane mysteriously appearing and disappearing on Mars, to ocean worlds that could harbor alien life, to asteroids that could strike without warning, NASA has accumulated a collection of discoveries that paint a more dangerous and mysterious universe than most people realize. The agency's caution is understandable. NASA depends on public support and government funding. Scaring people or making premature announcements about potential alien life could damage credibility and scientific integrity. But this caution sometimes crosses into opacity, leaving the public unaware of genuine threats and profound discoveries. What's clear is that space is far more dangerous and far stranger than the sanitized version we often get in press releases and educational materials. The universe is hostile to life, filled with radiation, impact threats, and cosmic phenomena we barely understand. And yet, life might be surprisingly common, existing in ocean worlds throughout our solar system and potentially beyond. NASA continues its work, monitoring threats, searching for life, and expanding our understanding of the cosmos. But remember that for every discovery that makes headlines, there are dozens of unsettling findings buried in technical papers, discussed in closed meetings, or simply not deemed suitable for public consumption. The question is, what else is NASA not telling us? What discoveries are being made right now that we won't learn about for years? And are there some things we're better off not knowing? What do you think? Should NASA be more transparent about discoveries even when they're unsettling or incomplete? What revelation would scare you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening in space exploration, smash that like button and subscribe for more investigations into what space agencies aren't telling us. Ring that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into cosmic mysteries and hidden discoveries. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the truth is out there, even if it takes years to reach us.